Bad Batch Season 1 Episode 2 has officially been released on Disney Plus, and it was a 30-minute episode. Of course, the first episode was 75 minutes, the second one 30 minutes, so about a normal length of an episode of the Clone Wars, I would say. But yeah, it wasn't as action-packed. It wasn't as chaotic in terms of, once again, the action or the storyline. It wasn't like a major plot twist or anything like that. There wasn't anything major that happened, but there were some interesting concepts that I do want to talk about. I know I normally do my live reaction things, but check my community post for the explanation. It would take too long to explain on here. Let's get into it. I took some notes on the episode. We're going to talk about it, just the story overall. We're going to recap it, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit while we're recapping it, and then I'm going to tell you what I thought of it, some of my overall thoughts, and then just, yeah, we're going to put that all together. Let's get into it. So it starts off with them in space escaping Kamino, of course. No problems there, no outer space ship fight or anything, but, you know, we see them go to a planet. And I think it was Tech who said, I don't know how to pronounce it. They probably, I wrote down Salakumai. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's spelled Salecami. I pronounced it wrong probably, but either way, you get my point. They go to this planet, they walk around the forest for a bit, and for the first time in her life, Omega sees dirt. Of course, she's been on Kamino her whole life. All she knows is buildings and water. No dirt, no grass, anything like that. She panics for a minute in a good way. She's like so happy to see it. And she runs around, and then finally they go to their destination. They set off, Wrecker sets off some trap, and then this lady and this dude come out. And it is no other than Cut and Sue from Season 2, Episode 10 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. A clone who was a deserter, of course, when Rex got injured in that episode. They went to this house, and Sue, their kids, and Cut ended up taking care of Rex while he was hurt, while the other clones went to complete their mission. And so that is how we got introduced to Cut back in the Clone Wars. And he is back here in the Bad Batch. Of course, this is now during the Empire, the beginning of the Empire, the transition period, which we will talk about here in a minute. But yes, that is what we see. We see them go to meet Cut and Sue, and then of course we see their two kids later on. Now, when they are inside introducing each other, Echo and Omega are new, but Cut and Sue had already met the other ones of the Bad Batch, which is Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker. And of course, the first question they ask, where is Crosshair? Hunter says it's complicated. And then Echo asks, or no, not Echo, Cut brings up Rex and says, yeah, that's what Rex said yesterday or something. And then Echo says, wait, what? You saw Rex? He said, yeah, as I said, we saw him yesterday, and he was going on about some behavior manipulation thing in their heads or something, and the clones all attacked the Jedis or something. And of course, at the end of Season 7 of the Clone Wars, we saw Rex shooting at Ahsoka in the Clone Wars. Sad moment. Very painful, still traumatic, super traumatic. Anyways, then they start talking about that, and Omega says, oh, you mean the inhibitor chips? Yeah, the Kaminoans talk about this all the time. They have inhibitor chips that every clone has in their head, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, we didn't know about this, okay? So they finally talk about that a bit. They look into that, and it's like, oh, okay, they have a behavioral chip in their head. But yeah, and then after that, we see Omega finally getting to interact with other children of her age, throwing a ball around, being a kid, right? You know, she's being a kid. She's throwing a ball around with her friends. She's disobeying her parents, which is the Bad Batch at this point, and she goes into a field and gets attacked by this thing that looks like a Nexu from Attack of the Clones, this giant, mean-looking thing that looks like it wants to eat anything in its sights. And of course, you know, she escapes. Sue starts shooting at it. Hunter starts stabbing it, but it gets away. It runs away. But yeah, that's that. So at this point, the Empire has moved into the planet, which I will not try to pronounce again, and has been seizing ships for about a week, according to Cut. Seeing the transition from the Empire to the, or from the Republic to the Empire, in my opinion, is really cool because in the movies, we obviously don't see it because we see the original trilogy first, and then we see the prequels, and then there's that, 15-year gap between episodes 3 and 4. We see some of Rogue One, which is where the galactic conflict really escalates, but we don't really get to see the weeks, the months, the couple of years, right when the Republic turns into the Empire. We never get to see that in the movies or even in TV shows. We don't even see it in the Clone Wars. We don't see it in anything else. And so that's what I really am enjoying about the show, is that they're showing us. They're not just showing Order 66. They're not just showing, a bunch of stormtroopers or something. They're showing some of the small little details that, to a casual fan, they wouldn't notice. They just say, okay, cool, whatever. Or they might not even care and they might just think it's lame. But to like big Star Wars fans like myself, we look at that and we say, okay, that's a really cool detail I didn't know. Now I know about it. Now I'm going to take this information, process it, and we're going to see how this turns out. And we see some of these small transition details, like we see, for example, the main point of the episode. We see these things called chain codes, which is in exchange for the Republic currency, I believe. I don't know all the details, but it sounded like, Cut goes to give some lady some currency from the Republic, some credits, and then she says you can't use that, you need a chain code from the Empire, and then there's this hologram explaining the process. I was kind of confused by it because it's 2 a.m., but they started talking about that, so you can't use Republic credits, you need a chain code. And so seeing that, I guess, currency transition obviously is a big deal, but then also seeing the clone troopers there, We assume that the clones just immediately turn to stormtroopers, but it's not the same thing. The stormtroopers aren't clones, they're actually trained soldiers, not clones. Anyways, seeing the clones that are working for the Empire right off the bat is very interesting. It makes me think, how long did it take for the clone army to be disassembled, dismantled, and turned into the stormtroopers? Like, how long did that process take? So I'm curious to see how that goes, but just a couple small details like that I found very interesting. But yeah, after the whole Omega getting attacked by the Nexu looking thing, Hunter is kind of harsh at first, but Cut's kind of like, look, this isn't a soldier, don't treat her like a soldier, she's literally a kid, calm down for a second, like be a parent to her, kind of calmly explain what they did wrong, comfort them. And so that's what he kind of did. So Hunter's learning how to be a dad. Omega's learning how to be a normal kid in a sense. So it's about to be the next father-daughter relationship in Star Wars. So I thought that was an interesting aspect that they're kind of trying to make. Hunter's kind of like very sentimental towards her. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes. Then we see Tech and Echo going on to hack, I guess. I don't know if hack is the correct term, but to try to make themselves some chain codes for the team to escape the planet, or for the family of Cut and Sue to escape the planet. They go on this long task. Echo uses his magical tech wizardry with his arm that he lost, that got turned into kind of like an R2-D2 arm thing. So he's getting all these codes. He's unlocking vaults to get some chips, and he puts all that information onto the chips. They're like the credits now. He gets 5 of them, obviously the 4 for Cut, Sue, and their 2 kids, and then obviously 1 extra, and that was for Omega. Hunter wanted Omega to go with them. He thought it would be safer for her. He thought that she'd be able to get off the planet, live a normal life, and not have to deal with the Empire or any type of conflict. Omega says, no, that is not where I want to be. I want to be with you guys. You guys are cool. I left Kamino with you. I left Kamino because of you. I'm sticking with you guys. And so they all get on the ship. Omega runs back. And then there's fighting. There's a bunch of fighting involved. Echo and Tech get caught by some clone troopers. They fight. Omega ends up escaping with the chips to Wrecker and stuff. There's a bunch of details in there that's long to explain. Basically, they get out. Omega is able to get back to the Bad Batch. They are able to escape. Where to next? I don't know. But yeah, that was the episode. Post reactions, post thoughts. Once again, I think that aspect of the post Empire era, or the transition from the post Republic to early Empire era, I think that's going to be really interesting to see how they treat that. I feel like they've done a really good job showing some of the small transitions, showing some of the small things, showing how some of the conversations, especially in episode 1 at Kamino, how Tarkin was there, how they were talking about working with the clone army, maybe getting rid of it, maybe not getting rid of it. And then moving on to episode 2, we see some of the things on other planets that are not just directly impacting the clones. We see how it impacts some of the daily lives of everyday people in the Empire. And yeah, so I thought that was really cool. I'm curious to see what other aspects of that transition that they kind of do, how they kind of show it. And then obviously Rex. When is Rex going to show up to this thing? I don't know. Either way, I'm going to be thrilled. I'm going to be happy. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do another one of these next week. I might, depends. But I honestly had a lot of fun doing this kind of post-video reaction / recap, kind of giving my thoughts on it. I hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, please leave a like. Helps me out a ton. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We'll be doing this for every episode of The Bad Batch. We'll do a live reaction or we'll do something like this. But yeah, I've really enjoyed the show so far. I rated the first episode an 8.5 out of 10. This episode, once again, it wasn't as action-packed. It wasn't as big and bold and exciting in terms of like explosions and stuff. Once again, the graphics on the show are lifelike. I swear, I'm looking at some of these people. I'm like, these are real people. They are not. It is animated, but either way, still a great show. Great episode. Wasn't as good as the first, but it was still a really, really good episode. I think I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Once again, not like a super action-packed, out-of-this-world, but it was really the concepts for me that really made this interesting, really kept me in it, really like just made me think a lot. Some of those small concepts that I was talking about earlier in this video. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Have a great, I guess, rest of your day. It's like 3 a.m.